Guess who's back? Back again. Daddy's back. Tell a friend. No, really, go tell a friend. We're on. Go watch us. All right, welcome into a new episode of the Zero Technique podcast. It is good to be back. I'm your co-host, Ryan Stern. Joined with me, as always, my co-host, Jared Zero. How you doing, Jared?
I'm doing excellent, Ryan. It's good to be back. It's good to have you back. I know you've been a little busy, have your hands full with your little man, so I want to extend my congratulations on air.
Thank you. Yeah, August 14th, my wife and I welcomed in Cameron Jeremiah Stern. He had to spend some time in the NICU, so it was a weight that was lifted off our shoulders when we were able to bring him home on the day that my wife was discharged. Thank God. Everything's been great since, and a lot of sleepless nights, but we knew what we were getting into. You can follow the show on Twitter at ZeroTechPod. I am on Twitter and Instagram at orstern33. Jared, you can see there at journalistj0. Make sure you're following Backsports page on all social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And if you were following, you would have seen that today we are celebrating Sports Fandom Day. I see Jared's got his Patriots, his brand new quarterback, Cam Newton, repping him. I got my quarterback hanging up behind me. Got my other two teams, and I know this is a football show, but I can see one of those jerseys hanging up there is a Mets jersey, and literally within minutes of us coming on air, the news broke of the passing of Tom Seaver. If you're a Mets fan, this hurts. It is. To a Mets fan, this is the Michael Jordan to the Bulls. This is the Tom Brady to the Patriots. Tom Seaver, his nickname is the franchise. He passed from complications of dementia. It was tough to see over the past couple of years what maybe one of the top pitchers in baseball history, what he had become in terms of not being able to move around the way that he had, and just his all around physical attributes were just decreased. And my heart goes out to the Mets organization, to the Seaver family. It really is. It was tough to read.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even a Mets fan, and I could say that I've obviously heard of Tom Seaver, and it is definitely sad news. Any legend of any sport passing is always tough, and so obviously my condolences go out to the Seaver family and to the Mets organization.
Yeah, so we are a football podcast, so we are going to get back onto the football train right now. We're going to have some news and notes. We are going to have fantasy segment, and we are going to have our top five. This week is going to be top five coaches. So it's a little bit different than what we had been doing, where it's easy to quantify with stats on the field. With the players that we had been ranking in our top five. Now we're getting into coaches, and coaching is way beyond wins and losses. So it should definitely be an interesting topic for us. But let's open up with the news and notes in the NFL. And the biggest news, I guess, over the past couple of days was the Jacksonville Jaguars releasing Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette, former number 4 overall draft pick, was going into the final year of his rookie deal. If you can take the comments of Gus Bradley to whatever you want to take him. They couldn't even get a 7th round draft pick in return for Leonard Fournette at his current salary. It goes to show you that the NFL views Leonard Fournette a lot different than the media or NFL fans.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of shocked when I saw that they cut him. They were like, we couldn't find a trade partner, so we released him. It's strange to me. Like, I kind of get it. Like, he's had a down year last year and even somewhat of the year before. But, I always say that running back talent is pretty hard to come by. And every player is going to go through those down years, and every player is going to have those sort of hiccups in their careers. And to just kind of give up on Fournette the way that they did is, in my opinion, somewhat insulting.
Yeah, and a lot of it goes back to when Tom Coughlin was still in Jacksonville, and you could definitely tell that there was tension between the two of them. Tom Coughlin is about as old school as it gets when you look at how things used to be in the NFL. And Fournette just obviously did not have the attitude that matched what Tom Coughlin was looking for in a player. And I mean, to see a talent, and mind you, Leonard Fournette is only 25 years old. He's coming off a season where he had his rushing numbers were down than they were, but he was utilized in the passing game a lot more than he had ever been utilized in the past. And I think a lot of people were expecting, especially with him going into the final year of his rookie contract, they were just going to pound and pound, use him up, make him wear down his body, and then just let him walk scot-free. And now that with the release, and now you look at what are their current options? Their current options that are already in-house are Raquel Armstead, rookie from last year. You have Chris Thompson, who Jay Gruden, the offensive coordinator, brought over from Washington, who is more of a passing down back, but may be utilized more often in the running game. And the name to watch out for is Devine Ozigbo. He's an undrafted free agent out of Nebraska, and he's been getting tons of talk out of Jaguars camp. And there's a good chance that this kid, starting week 1, is getting the bulk of the carries.
Yeah, I mean, half of those names you mentioned, I feel like any casual football fan, they're not obviously going to know who those players are.
Absolutely.
I mean, granted, I don't know who 2 of those guys were. So, like, it just goes to show what I feel like the Jaguars are kind of going for a complete rebuild now. And the situation with Fournette reminds me a lot of the situation with Cam. I'm going to kind of put it in this type of perspective. Is so when Carolina was tossing the idea of getting rid of Cam, right? They were looking for a trade partner for him, but all the teams, I feel like they kind of knew that if we just wait, they're going to cut him anyway. So why give up anything to get this player, right? Because you would think, oh, well, they couldn't find a trade partner for Fournette, so nobody's going to sign him if they cut him, right? But the second he got cut, there was 4 or 5 teams lined up, ready to go for him. And I think it's just one of those things where if you give up that information saying we're moving on from this player, and so we're trying to trade them, you just why do that to yourself? That costs them even a draft pick for any round, right? So, I really hope Leonard Fournette gets signed somewhere. Obviously, he will, but I'm hoping it's a solid team. I feel like Jacksonville just wasn't it for him, and I think he does deserve a shot at a playoff run.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of the options that are on the table for Leonard Fournette right now, and the 3 names that we were talking about that we had been hearing rumors about were the Buccaneers, the Patriots, and the Bills. There are 2 other teams that make a lot of sense to me, and that's the Chicago Bears and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Both of them have running identities, physical running identities. You look at the Bears, and the Bears have an injury currently with their starter in David Montgomery. David Montgomery is likely to be back maybe by week 1 or 2, but it's still up in the air. He took a pretty hard hit. There is no guarantee of what David Montgomery is going to be able to bring in. And also the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, you have James Conner, who is an injury waiting to happen. And who's behind him? You have a rookie in Anthony McFarland Jr., who hasn't, from anything that I've heard, hasn't really made a name for himself that he is going to be the number 2 in this offense. You have Benny Snell, who was around last year, wasn't able to make a lot of impact. Jalen Samuel, who a lot of people are expecting to be cut. So the Bears and Steelers make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I don't disagree with either of those teams. I really think that Leonard Fournette, especially the Steelers, like I think the Steelers out of all 5 teams we just talked about make the most sense because, like you said, James Conner is an injury waiting to happen, but there's no denying that he is a talented running back. So I feel like if you can give him a few less touches and kind of utilize him in a more important role where you give him those bigger carries and those more important carries, I think taking some of the carries away from him to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Minimize the risk of injury for him.
Absolutely.
I think Leonard Fournette would be a great fit. But not even speaking from a homer perspective as a Patriots fan, he does fit well with New England. I was reading a bunch of things on Twitter, and the common theme is that signing a back like Leonard Fournette, who can be utilized in the passing game, but can also be an effective running back compared to somebody like a Sony Michel, who, you're always kind of questioning what he's going to do, opens up a much larger playbook for Josh McDaniels with Cam Newton and Fournette.
Yeah, I mean, right now there are a lot of guys that are in the Patriots running back room that nobody knows who's going to be able to deliver what. Damian Harris, from everything I've heard, has been the clear top guy in training camp. He's looked good running the ball. He's looked good catching the ball. He's looked good in pass protection. I think Damian Harris is someone to look out for. To even if you have Sony Michel and Lamar Miller healthy week 1, I think there still is a good chance that Damian Harris does get the first snaps, especially because he's been there. Sony Michel, Lamar Miller have been on PUP for quite some time now. They haven't been able to work with the offense, even in the limited capacity that these teams have been able to work. But he has been there, and he has been on the field, and he has looked really good. So I think with the emergence of Damian Harris, maybe the Patriots wouldn't be so desperate for someone like a Leonard Fournette. The other names that we brought up, we brought up the Buccaneers, who a lot of people say the Buccaneers are the clear favorite. Ronald Jones has had an issue with his left foot. Keyshawn Vaughn hasn't even been working with the twos. They brought in LaShawn McCoy. He hasn't been anywhere close to what you would expect from LaShawn McCoy from everything that I've heard. Leonard Fournette makes a ton of sense down in Tampa.
I honestly think we could go back and forth saying he makes sense on all these different teams, but the thing about it is Leonard Fournette is such a talented back that he will fit seamlessly on any one of these teams. You could put him in Buffalo, and that's a even bigger running threat than Devin Singletary, right? And you have that with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and John Brown. You could throw him, like you said, to the Bears. He really is such the type of running back you can kind of just pick up and place into really any offensive scheme, and he's going to work just for the mindset he has, the type of work ethic he has. And so I mean, we could go back and forth.
The work ethic is
okay, maybe not the work ethic, but
maybe not what you want to bring up, because I think if the work ethic was there, the issues with Tom Coughlin wouldn't have been there.
Fair, okay, but the talent-wise, I'm saying, I think you could pick and choose where you want him to go, and no matter what, he's gonna work. So
there's no denying the man's talent. He was a number 4 overall draft pick within the past decade, which is absurd. You just, unless you are a special talent, you're just not getting picked that high anymore. Christian McCaffrey went 8, and there were still a lot of people who thought that was too high, me included. It made me eat my words.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody thought Christian McCaffrey went a little bit too high, but obviously he's showing that it was a worth it pick. So, I mean,
we do have a newer member of the Back Sports Page crew. Want to welcome in Marthony Sanders to the show. How you doing tonight, Marthony?
How's it going? I'm doing good. Pretty good.
So we were just talking about the Leonard Fournette release and some of the options for him and some of the options for the Jaguars. Why don't you give us your insight as to where you're thinking on both sides of that spectrum?
Well, I think for Fournette, probably obviously where he wants to go to or what he should look for as far as fit wise is definitely get him somewhere where he's in a winning culture, winning attitude. The locker room is where it's pretty tight together. It's because it's just interesting how just 3 seasons ago how their team in Jacksonville was, and it looked like that they were finally turning over a new leaf down there. And then just in the blink of an eye, just about everybody that was a part of that AFC Championship team is gone.
Yeah, they were 15 minutes away from beating the Patriots and going to the Super Bowl.
So it's just the fact of that, and then now it's just pretty much they just are blowing that thing up. So I mean, a guy like Leonard Fournette, who you guys mentioned earlier, a top 5 running back pick, which doesn't happen anymore. I mean, a running back didn't even go in the first round, I don't believe, in this past draft. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think a running back even went in the first round in this year's draft. So just to tell you the type of level or the type of player that Fournette is, obviously, I think if anywhere he could probably fit just about anywhere. I know there's been things about New England and Tampa Bay. Those are kind of like the top ones that everyone's hearing. I mean, me personally, I don't want to see him in Tampa Bay. I've seen too many going to Tampa Bay right now, and that division, the NFC South, is already as competitive as is. I don't want another star player going down anywhere in that division. But
we should clarify for those of you that are just listening to the podcast as opposed to watching the stream. Marthony is wearing an Atlanta Falcons jersey, so we want to make sure that we know that's the reason why he doesn't necessarily want to see Leonard Fournette in the NFC South.
I gotta say, the NFC South is by far the most competitive division in football. It is undoubtedly the best, and I think this season obviously I've said it countless times since Ryan and I have been doing this podcast. I really think the Buccaneers are going to the Super Bowl. They went 7-9 with Jameis Winston, and so if they could do that with 30 and 30 interceptions, I think they can go pretty far with Tom Brady. But that division is something else, so it's going to be an exciting season.
Very, very. I mean, but at the end of it, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he did land it up in Tampa. I mean, but I just think honestly, anyone who is just willing to take him, and as long as he's able to actually put in the work, not get into any type of trouble or anything like that, and just go out there and produce for a team, then I think anybody would probably be willing to take him. It's just,
right.
It's just, will he put in that 110%? Will he go that extra mile? That the reason why he got picked number 4 in that 2017 draft is, will he be able to do just that?
I think you had mentioned a great point when you first were trying to figure out a good landing spot. A winning culture, I think, is needed because you obviously saw the effect that it had on the losing culture in Jacksonville, the effect that it had on other star players, and how everyone else just wanted to get out. And maybe that was part of the downfall to Leonard Fournette over the past couple of years was this hasn't been a winning franchise aside from really 2 seasons, their second season in the league, and then a couple of years ago when they were, like I said, 15 minutes away from going to the Super Bowl. Having a winning culture and having a positive attitude can do so much for a player. You've seen so many times. Look at all of the outcasts that Bill Belichick has brought in and brought them into a winning culture, and all of a sudden the play matches the talent that we all thought that they had, and so that's why I think you hit the nail on the head with maybe just getting into a winning culture. And so maybe Tampa isn't the winning culture, but maybe the winning culture is being brought over there by Tom Brady. So that really, I think, from everything I've heard, seems to be the favorite. But when I was talking with Jared before, right before we got on, I said the team I thought he made the most sense with was Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah, James Conner never is healthy, so
yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah.
All right, so we have some other news that we can get into. Another bigger one that was just within hours of us recording. The Patriots are releasing Mohamed Sanu, wide receiver that they traded a second-round draft pick in this past draft for with the Atlanta Falcons last year. Sanu, you could tell that he just didn't fit into the Patriot system, and that's another thing. The Patriot system is not easy to pick up. We've seen really good players go into the Patriot system and fail. Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco, just to name one superstar. I mean, Chad Johnson had potentially, if he had kept his head on straight, a Hall of Fame type career. I mean, he was putting up superstar numbers for 5-6 years, and then he goes to New England, and he just, everything that you hear was he just could not pick up the Patriot system, the Patriots playbook, and he was an utter failure there. And not saying that Mohamed Sanu is on the level of Chad Ochocinco, but I think they were expecting a lot more out of him. Jared, you are our resident Patriots fan. What are you making of this?
So I hate the decision personally, and I'm going to talk about it for a second. Obviously, Mohamed Sanu came in the middle of last season, and he didn't have a great year, right? It's you said it perfectly. The Patriots system is hard to pick up for just about any player. So to pick up the system halfway through a season is really tough, especially when you don't get that preseason and those like off-season kind of times to work out with the team and kind of build that rapport. So it was definitely that was definitely a harder piece for Sanu right there. But the Patriots have also been, since last season, in this weird like transition where they're moving on and picking up and moving on from all these different wide receivers. We saw it with Josh Gordon, Antonio Brown, now Mohamed Sanu, and even, letting Philip Dorsett walk. I think the decision to get rid of Mohamed Sanu was really dumb. So I've been following him very closely because I've always valued Mohamed Sanu. Even when he was in Atlanta, he was always the number 3 option behind Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones, but he was still a great wide receiver in my opinion. And the type of work he's been putting in this offseason, he hired a live-in wide receivers coach to live with him over the whole offseason so he could train. He's been working every single day to get better and better and better. And from everything that I was reading on Twitter and from all like the behind the scenes Patriot stuff at all like the training camp, is he was always the number one. He was always the number one guy. He was doing the best. He was showing out the best. Him and Cam Newton had built this great rapport, working out multiple times together, like outside of training camp. And to just kind of release him like that was kind of shocking to me. And I figured he was going to have a really big and like a much better season this year than he obviously had last year. And I thought he was going to step up to the challenge. So for me, the only way I see this making sense is if the Patriots are actually in contract talks with Leonard Fournette to get him, whatever money. And that would be the only way this move makes sense. If they don't land Fournette, I think this move is stupid.
We will get right back into the Mohamed Sanu, but just coming across Twitter, the Bucs and Leonard Fournette have an agreeing principle. So Tom Brady has his new running back. So now we can actually get into. I don't want, because we spend so much time, so I don't want to spend much more. But now we know that Tampa is the destination. What does that mean? Does he automatically become their starting running back, or has what Ronald Jones shown over the past couple months? Like I said, Keyshawn Vaughn, it was a higher draft pick, but hasn't really been able to show too much in camp. Is Leonard Fournette the week one starter there in Tampa?
Absolutely. Absolutely. He 100% becomes the starter. Not to take away from Ronald Jones, but I just think Fournette's a little bit more versatile, being able to produce a lot in the passing game as well as, just being a solid running option. And like you said earlier, I mean, Ronald Jones is dealing with that foot injury. So I think, kind of everything's working against him right now. So I think week one we're going to see Fournette start for the Bucs.
Yeah, I think he's the week one starter as well. I mean, like we said, the injury troubles with Ronald Jones, definitely, because Fournette having, I think he had like 76 receptions last year as a running back. That's, I mean, wasn't, of course, it's not Christian McCaffrey type numbers, but the fact that he didn't catch the ball that much in college itself and to able to work on this pass catching game, I think that's going to be helpful, especially to Tom Brady, as much as he lived off the James White swing passes, the Deion Jones swing passes, the Deion Lewis, swing passes that he had when he was there, and just about anybody else. So, I mean, it's pretty much like it's gonna work out for him. He's definitely gonna be the week one starter.
Yeah, I think so too. That Brady's gonna push for Fournette, because I think he knows that Fournette is going to be the most talented back there, and as long as he can get a feel for the offense. I mean, we also have to remember the season opens up. I mean, the NFL season opens up a week from tomorrow. They open up in 10 days on 11 days on Sunday, the 13th. I mean, that doesn't leave him a whole lot of time to get acclimated to the system, but this is someone with a ton of talent, and as long as he can figure something out, I think we see him as the week one starter as well. So yeah, we touched on Mohamed Sanu. The last bit of news that I want to get into before we get into our fantasy segment and then our top five is I don't know if either of you have been able to watch Hard Knocks. Last night's episode, for the second half of the episode, really featured both of the Chargers and the Rams and their response to what happened in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And it got real, it got heavy, it got emotional. And I think it was, Hard Knocks is one of the best programs that is on TV. I mean, I love football, so obviously I'm going to think higher of something acclimated to football, but the job that they do is second to none. We saw a lot of teams come out, and not every team, but a lot of teams come out and follow the lead set by the NBA, set by some teams in MLB, Major League Soccer, the WNBA, and eventually the NHL, and cancel some of the practices. We were able to see through Hard Knocks yesterday that the Chargers canceled a scrimmage, which in a season with no preseason games, scrimmages are huge, and for them to come out and it affect them so much, you know what this means to some of the players. And I was really proud of the NFL and the NFL players for how they handled everything that was going on. They're making their platform heard, they're making their platform felt, and they're using their platform for the betterment of the nation. Now, Marthony, I want obviously you have a little bit of a different take on this that myself or Jared could. What was your take on how you saw, and we all know how the NBA handled it. They obviously took a couple days off from the playoffs, but from strictly a football standpoint, how do you think it was handled by some of these teams and players?
I think this was a great way for them to that they were using their platform, how they were able to show the type of power that they have, because a lot of people see the NBA what they did and how they do things, and to a certain extent, like, they're not surprised that the NBA does it, but everyone, I mean, just keep it honest here. Everyone thinks that the NFL is different, that the players are controlled by the owners. All they care about is the money, the money, the money. They would never do anything like this. But I think it's a good thing that they're showing that they actually are standing up for something, and that they are trying to use their platform in a positive way. I don't mind them doing those things as far as canceling practice or scrimmages or anything like that. Granted, yes, the season is literally around the corner, like tomorrow, almost, pretty much. I mean, after next week. And initially, I know a lot of people are probably thinking, of course, the whole just stick to sports and leave it at that. But I mean, those guys are pretty much like they're humans, and they're people just like us. And there are times where our job frustrates us, or what's going on in life frustrates us. And sometimes it's okay to take a mental break. And if that means that you don't want to go to work that day, and that's what you have to do, then by all means, you do that. And I know a lot of people might look at it like, well, these are millionaires and they have everything they need and they want. But I mean, everybody goes through something every once in a while. And I mean, for some people, it's harder than others. So I know at times it can be very frustrating to see, people of the that might be the same color as you, or anything that goes through a lot more things than some others do. But all in all, I do appreciate them, like, finally, or to a certain, I won't say finally, but actually going out here and using their platform, but not necessarily, I wouldn't say they're like stepping on anyone's toes, but definitely trying to make sure that they get people's attention.
Before I'll give you your time, Jared, but one thing that I've noticed, and you brought up the whole, and when it comes to the NBA, you heard a lot of the big term was just shut up and dribble. I know that term has come up a lot lately, and even in Hard Knocks, they were trying to figure out a way to transform that from the NBA to the NFL. But you hear some of these comments, and all I can think about is that the people who are making these comments only think that these guys are robots that are sent to the earth for their sole the sole purpose is for their entertainment. They don't understand that these are human beings. They're allowed to stand up for what they believe in, just like these people making the comments are standing up for what they believe in by making those comments. They're all I can do is try and point out the hypocrisy, because they're doing the same thing that they're telling these players not to do, and it frustrates me, man. Jared, I know I know you've got something
So
on your mind.
when this all first started happening, when the Milwaukee Bucks decided to protest their first game, Randy, the founder of Back Sports Page, had actually called me, and we had a pretty lengthy discussion about this, and we ended up doing a midday show, kind of on spur of the moment thing, with fellow Back Sports Page member Tyrone Stallworth, and we had about a 45-minute episode talking about this stuff. And for one, the one thing that really annoys me is you see it on all the Facebook posts, you see it on literally everywhere. Oh, well, these players are going to care when the money stops rolling in. Well, first of all, these players are 24, 25 years old, and they could retire right now if they wanted to and not have to work a day in their life, and they are set for life. So for people to say, oh, the money matters to them, it has nothing to do with the money. They're doing the job they love to do. Just because they get paid more than us doesn't mean anything. Just because they are star athletes doesn't mean anything. You said it perfectly. These guys are people too. They have feelings as well. They have every right to take those personal days to do what they want. And I'm going to get a little off topic from football here. I'm going to talk about basketball for a minute. But when all the teams had decided to meet with the NBPA and whatever to kind of figure out, are they going to cancel the playoffs? Are they going to continue? Celtics player Jaylen Brown came out and said, if we go home, if we stop playing, what are you guys going to do? Are you just going to sit on your couch, or are you going to be on the front lines peacefully protesting, advocating for change? And I think that's what really sparked a lot of players to say, you know what, you're right. Like, if we go home, we're just going to go home. It's not. And he said, right now, where we are, this is the biggest platform we have. So for athletes to use their platform, if it's going to piss people off and people are going to get angry, they don't need those type of fans. Donovan Mitchell plays for the Utah Jazz, said it perfectly. He's like, I don't understand how you can root for somebody who looks like me and then defend somebody who looks like me getting shot. He's like, I don't get that. And so for these players, it's so much more personal because they see people rooting against them in everyday lives, but then root for them when they're on the court. It makes no sense to me. And so, as you could tell, I'm pretty, upset about it. And I want to bring up one last point that Randy and I had talked about. One player in particular that I think we can all agree in, who's very, for an athlete, is very outspoken and very, well known in just the sports world in general, LeBron James. One question that was posed was, does LeBron James ever cross the line of just how outspoken he is? And the answer, in my opinion, is absolutely not. There is no such thing as a line when it comes to personal feelings in politics, right? Whether you agree with somebody or not makes no difference. He can say he disagrees with everybody if he wants to, and there's no line. He's not threatening people. He's not going off swearing at this one or that one. He's advocating for his community, for the NBA, for the NFL, and we see oftentimes the NBA is kind of the leading catalyst to get all these awareness. Like we saw it happen this year. We saw everything happen with the NBA, then the NFL followed suit. The NHL followed suit, right? So for what is going on, these players are human and they have every right to feel this hurt. And the one thing, again, that bothers me is people are trying to take away from what the real issue is at hand and trying to, criticize the victim's character. It has nothing to do with his character. People are like, well, why are you supporting, that the victim, Jacob Blake? He was a terrible person. Yeah, that doesn't matter. He still shouldn't have been shot 7 times. So that's why his name is going to be on their helmet. Breonna Taylor was sleeping. She did nothing wrong. That's why her name is going to be on their helmet. So you see this stuff and you see these people getting angry and they're saying, we're not going to watch sports. We're not going to do anything. But that Sunday rolls around, 8 o'clock at night, prime time. They're sitting on their couch watching that game.
Yeah, and another thing that frustrates me is you see no matter what the posts, the topic of some of these posts by some of these platforms, by whether it's a team, by whether it's ESPN, whether it's the NFL, if it's a post about football and specifically just about football, not about what's going on in the world, what's going on in terms of social justice, just strictly about football, you get the keyboard warriors who have to come out and say, I'm done with football, I'm not watching football. Yet they're still the ones who are supporting these platforms by following them on social media. They're giving them just more eyes and ears to get their word out to, yet they have to be the ones who are going to just try and bring down everything because it's not something they believe in. Yeah, I mean, we could go on and on about this. We do have the rest of the show that I want to get to. Guys, I want to thank you. That I thought that was a great 10-minute conversation that we just had. We were able to express what we were feeling regarding everything going on. And it's just a shame that we have to continue to have these conversations. Want to get into our fantasy segment. The topic we are going to discuss today is late round targets at each of the positions. We'll open it up at quarterback. Now, this is easy for me. I am a late round quarterback drafter no matter what. So most of the guys that I draft are going to fall into this category. If he falls, the guy that I'm drafting everywhere is Matt Stafford. I just think that Stafford is going to have an enormous season. But the later round guy that I am targeting is Jared Goff. Everyone has Robert Woods ranked high. Everyone has Cooper Kupp ranked high. Everyone has Tyler Higbee ranked high. We're starting to see the rise of Cam Akers in these drafts. Who's going to be the one getting them the ball? It's going to be Jared Goff. We saw last year was the opposite of 2018. Goff had a really rough first half of the season last year. Was a lot better in the second half of the season, which was weird because it was really when Cooper Kupp had missed some time. They started to go into a lot of 12 personnel. We saw a lot of Higbee and Gerald Everett out there at the same time. I really like Jared Goff as a late round QB target. Jared, how about you?
So I don't have a dog in this fight of conversation. I drafted Patrick Mahomes in the second round, and Ryan wanted to stab me. But
Mahomes, where you were picking at the beginning, towards the front half of the second round. If you wanted Mahomes, you couldn't wait. He wasn't going to be there when he came around to third. I'm just trying to get to show you that there are so many good quarterbacks.
No, so I do agree with you on Jared Goff. He ended up being my backup quarterback, and I think I got him late in the 7th round, I think, somewhere that low. I don't remember. But I do agree with Jared Goff is definitely one of the lower quarterback picks.
Marthony, how about you?
For me, I have a draft coming up this Sunday actually, so this is definitely going to help. Probably for me, I'm actually going to go with a rookie quarterback. I say late round, I would say probably Joe Burrow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just because of the weapons that's around it. If AJ Green is able to stay healthy, those are targets. I mean, Joe Mixon, he just got a big contract extension himself. Tyler Boyd. I mean, I just just those kind of subtle weapons around them. I mean, just for example, just for a good QB2, like if your quarterback one is on a bye week or the matchup as well, and he can find a way to just get you. You might not need like a 30-point from him, but as long as he can give you close to 300 yards, a touchdown, no more than an interception or 2 touchdowns and an interception, just to kind of balance it out there for you. I think Joe Burrow could be a good late round pick at the quarterback
Absolutely.
position.
I mean, the weapons that he has, and he should have a much improved offensive line. They do get Jonah Williams, who was their first round draft pick in 2019, missed the entire season with an injury. He will be back as well. So, hey, Burrow is definitely a great late round target. We do have a question from a YouTube watcher, Albert Yang. He said that he drafted Ronald Jones late. Should he drop him at this point? Ronald Jones to me is not a drop yet. We still need to see exactly what they're going to be running in Tampa. There still is, in my opinion, a 30% chance that Ronald Jones is the starter week 1. Even with Leonard Fournette, I do think Jones is going to be integrated into the offense at some capacity. I don't think he's necessarily a drop right now, but thank you for your question. So on that note, we will get into late round running back. And this is a name that when we were talking about Leonard Fournette, a name that I had brought up to Jared, and my favorite late round running back is Damian Harris. Damian Harris, I think, especially now that we know Leonard Fournette is not coming to the Patriots, Sony Michel, Lamar Miller have missed time at camp. Damian Harris has excelled from everything we've heard. Yeah, give me all those shares of Damian Harris. Jared.
So for me, so I've only done one draft so far. So this is actually my second year doing fantasy, kind of for general overview. I'm doing 3 drafts this year. So I did my first one, and the late round running back that I went with was Marlon Mack. He was, he's going to be a viable option in Indy. I know they have a pretty solid running back core in Indy, but I feel like just for a late round, someone to kind of sit on your bench for when one of your main running backs has that bye week, I feel like Marlon Mack's a great pickup.
Yeah, I like Marlon. I like Marlon Mack too. Another running back that kind of late round that I always kind of looked at. Kerryon Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
If he can stay healthy, that's number one. And then I mean, if Detroit tries not to get out of the way and actually, get some balance and run the ball, I mean, he can give you some nice fantasy points as well. I like Kerryon Johnson and Marlon Mack. Those are like my 2 late round like running back sleepers that I saw.
Yeah, Kerryon. To be honest, I think especially with the little bit of time that DeAndre Swift, their second round draft pick from this year, has missed some time. So has Kerryon, but I think Kerryon has been more of maintenance as opposed to actual injury. I think Kerryon has a chance to start for at least half the season, and I think where he's going definitely has some value. Wide receivers. there's one guy, especially now with Tyrell Williams, the wide receiver in Las Vegas, going on IR. A lot of people are looking at Henry Ruggs. I'm looking at a different rookie wide receiver there. I'm looking at Brian Edwards out of South Carolina. I think he fits as the more prototypical X receiver. Ruggs, I think, is a prototypical Z. Edwards, the only reason why he fell in the draft was I believe, his injury history his senior year. I think this kid can be a special. I think there is a chance, even with Judy and Lamb, that Brian Edwards could be the best wide receiver of this rookie class. He's definitely one, and he's going either undrafted or in the last round. Brian Edwards is someone that I'm looking at. Jared, how about you?
So the person that I'm going to talk about actually went undrafted in my my first draft, and that's Sammy Watkins. If he could stay healthy, Patrick Mahomes, as we know, likes to spread the ball around. He's not really just a one-target guy. Obviously, there's Tyreek Hill, there's McCole Hardman. That whole team is just offensive weapon after offensive weapon. But Sammy Watkins is one of those guys that when the double team is on Tyreek Hill, when healthy, he's reliable. And I feel like as long as he can stay healthy, he's going to get his fair number of targets. He has solid hands. He's going to obviously produce. He's going to get those chunk yardage plays. So I think, Sammy Watkins is a great, late round and potentially undrafted pick.
Yeah, Sammy Watkins was the Chiefs' best receiver during the playoff run. In terms of production, obviously Tyreek Hill gets the coverage, but Sammy Watkins was the best producer of all the wide receivers in their playoff run. Marthony, how about you?
Once again, I see probably two more like late receivers that I'm kind of looking at. One for me is Sterling Shepard. I know on paper it kind of looks like, well, how could he get his pass targets or anything like that? Because of course you have Saquon and then there's Evan Ingram. But I mean, you can't just run it and try to just throw it down the seam. You got to have some weapons out there on the outside or in the slot. I know, of course, you can move him around. And I think Daniel Jones will find a way to give him the ball and to make sure he get just enough targets. And another person I'm looking at is another rookie receiver, but not one of the bigger names that went in the first round. I like Shenault from Colorado that's down there in Jacksonville, just because, no disrespect to the guys like D.D. Westbrook and everything down there, but he can find a way to get on the field, and they can.
I think he could be the number 2 right away.
Yeah.
Obviously, DJ Chark is going to be their number one, but yeah, he can definitely be their number 2.
I think he has the potential there, and I mean, of course, probably put him in. He can probably get you something in the return game. Running game, speed sweeps in the rounds, just finding him ways to get touches as well. So those are the two for me that I like, Shepard and Shenault.
Yeah, Laviska Shenault, third round draft pick out of Colorado. And one thing that I've noticed, I do tons of film watching regarding rookies with all the NFL draft coverage that I do. When you see productive wide receivers that are also really good returners in college, it usually trends to having that same success in the National Football League. Returnability is so underrated when you're looking at some of these rookies, and Shenault definitely was one of the nation's best returners. Can definitely offer some help there. And yeah, they don't have anyone who you can say, oh, well, this is our number 2 option. It's just not there. And the reward that he can provide for, again, he's going undrafted in most leagues. He can provide the type of upside that not many players who are going undrafted can provide. So I think both of you had great picks with the wide receivers. I think we're going to table our coaches until next week. Our top five. We have about 5 minutes left, so we'll wrap up with our late round tight ends. Again, this is another one where this is the deepest that I've seen the tight end class in quite some time. Obviously, you have the top two in Kittle and Kelsey. Then there's I think a clear second tier with Mark Andrews, Zach Ertz, and Darren Waller. Then you have 6 through 16 can be intermingled in any way possible. Two of the guys that I really like are Hayden Hurst in Atlanta. Matt Ryan has had a lot of success throwing the ball to the tight end in the past. You have all those targets vacated with Austin Hooper leaving. And now you have Hayden Hurst getting out of the 3 tight end system in Baltimore. I think he can succeed there. And Jonnu Smith in Tennessee is another one that I like. When Ryan Tannehill took over at quarterback, we started to see the ascension of Jonnu Smith. He's not going to be the safest because he's more of a hit or miss type of guy. He's not going to be the 4 receptions for 55 yards guy week in, week out. He's going to be the 1 for 7 or the 8 for 104 and 2 touchdowns type of guy. So Jonnu Smith is a perfect tight end 2 for me. I don't draft 2 tight ends very often, but if I do, someone like Jonnu Smith's going to be who I'm looking at. Jared, how about you?
Mike Gesicki out of Miami. He showed some really promising signs towards the end of the season, and he really stepped it up big for that team. Everyone thought they were going to go 0-16, and they ended up turning it around. And, he was a big part of that. So I think if he can keep up with what he was doing towards the end of last season, he's definitely going to be, especially with Tua under center, and now they have, potentially their franchise quarterback for the long haul and everything else. I really just see them doing well with, because they don't have a bad offensive weapons. And so I think Mike Gesicki is going to do very well.
If good friend of the show, John Laub, John, how you doing? If he's watching, he'd definitely pat you on the back for that one. I know John loves him some Mike Gesicki this year. Why don't you wrap it up, Marthony?
For me, I also saw Jonnu Smith, but another tight end I'm kind of looking at too. Blake Jarwin for Dallas. Mm-hmm. There's no Jason Witten down there. He's pretty much going to be the guy probably at tight end. Kind of the same thing with probably the same thing like with Smith. I don't think he's going to get you like those consistent numbers, but I mean, definitely for a tight end too, I would definitely look at Blake Jarwin.
So a lot of people don't realize, but in terms of vacated targets, where players who had targets who are no longer on the team, the Cowboys are number 1 in vacated targets. Both Jason Witten and Randall Cobb, believe it or not, had 83 targets apiece in Dallas last year. So that's 166 targets that are now vacated. And obviously they did bring in CeeDee Lamb, but I don't know how much, if we're going to expect more than 83 targets to go to a rookie. And even if he does get to that 83, you're still left with those 83. And Jarwin is a guy that I actually have drafted multiple times so far this year. Guys, I want to thank you for a great show this week. Once again, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at rstern33. Jared is on Twitter at journalistj0. Marthony, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you on social?
Oh yeah, that's right here. I am _M Sanders _ that is my Twitter as well.
And what do you have coming up with Back Sports Page?
Probably just getting ready here for more of what's coming up for the season, and that's pretty much it right there. Probably what's coming up here for football season. I'm very anxious. Can't wait.
All right. Yeah, we see it, Jared.
Cam Newton's gonna have a big year, by the way.
Probably so. Yeah.
All right, boys. Thanks again for everyone tuning in. Thanks to Christopher. Thanks to Calvin. Thanks to Albert for sending over your comments. Again, we definitely appreciate all the love. Make sure you spread the word. Go check out backsportspage.com for all the archives for our show, the other great shows going up for Backsports Page. So until next week. Also, next week, we will be having 2 shows. We will be on our regular Wednesday night for our season preview. It'll be the day before the opener. We'll also be on Tuesday night where we will be live streaming the Backsports Page fantasy draft. So that'll be fun.
Can't wait for that.
Yeah, can't wait. Marthony, we got to get you into the league. Shoot me a message afterwards. So,
Gotcha.
Again, thanks to all of our listeners, and make sure you are checking us out on all of our socials. Thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.